Hello, this is the webcast on design thinking at Living Innovation. My name is Dr. Bettina Maisch at Siemens Corporate Technology, and today I would like to talk about design thinking. I will give you a general introduction in this human-centered approach, and I hope you will both have time. When it comes to design, there is often a misunderstanding that design is just the appearance of solutions, of products, tangible products like a chair or a house, or a digital product like a website like Amazon. But design is not just how the thing looks and feels like. Design is also how things work. Steve Jobs said this, and I very much agree. So we have to figure out what is the need of the people and how might we make that happen. And this is what design thinking is all about. As I said, we're starting with the people. Design thinking is a human-centered approach. At the end, when we are delivering something in an environment of like a company like Siemens, we always have to be in the intersection. What is the business viability of a solution? What is the technological feasibility of a solution? But also, what is the people desirability? And in design thinking, we always have the people, the user, the customer in the center of all of our decision-making process. And we would like to deliver something we can make money with, and of course, is capable, we're able to make it happen from the production point of view, but also from aspects like safety, security, reliability. And design thinking in the responsible innovation, at the end, we have to figure out responsible for whom, in which way. Is it responsible to the society, for people who are often not in the majority, minority stakeholders, people with handicap, or maybe people who are older, unemployed, and not so much in the focus of our decision-making process when we are providing solutions and bring them to the market. Or people, not just people, but the planet. What is the environmental impact of our solution? What do we have to consider in order to improve the environmental aspects, increase the environmental footprint, decrease CO2, increase the recyclability. So when it comes to design thinking and responsible innovation, there is a wonderful match. It just has to be in the scope of all of our efforts too. And yes, it makes it much more complex, and probably we have to put more effort in, but it's definitely worth to do it. When it comes to design thinking, we also have to understand not just for whom, in which context. And here you can see what else has to be designed. So not just products, but also services. You experienced it when you go in a cafe, that the different cafes are very different. And processes. What are the single steps we are going towards in order to make something happen? And also organizations are designed and has to be designed. So there is a status that we have, but also maybe a future vision of how we should be in the future, and design is able to shape that, to visualize that, and to design the way towards the desired future. Design thinking has its roots at Stanford. Here people figured out that engineers have a very different approach to designers. Designers are more holistic. They ask themselves for whom, in which context. And Larry Leifer, the professor at the Center for Design Research and one of the most influential people in design thinking, recognized this as particularly valuable for the engineers. And they started a program in applying design thinking principle, or the designerly way of doing and thinking on engineering challenges. Design thinking became broadly known by an innovation consultancy called Ideation. Here you can see the initial article in the Business Week years ago, 2004, and the former CEO on the left side, Tim Brown, and the founder, one of the founders of IDEO, David Kelly, who is now the head of the D School at Stanford. And they visualized design thinking. They brought the design thinking movement to life, the designerly way of thinking. They gave it a name and a visualization as a process model. And it became really well known and applied in many, many fields. What also has to be understood, that design thinking is a craft. It's not rocket science, it's actually common sense, that you have to deliver something that is valuable to your user and to your customer in order to make money. And addressing human needs, it's easy to understand, but actually pretty hard to do. And therefore, we have to build up skills and competencies in order to apply design thinking on our real-life challenges successfully. And this involves training and doing background information. And usually you start and you have to reflect, and then you become better. Design thinking is also a mindset with certain principles. You can read them in the description of the D-School. They have material publicly available. I just want to pick out some more of them. What is particularly important is radical collaboration. What we mean by that is that you are involving people from different disciplines who are relevant in order to address a certain project topic. Not just engineers, but also people from marketing, sales, and the designers, UX designers, interaction designer, or industrial designers. Who are the people in sales and maybe in manufacturing you have to involve? This is what we mean by radical collaboration, but also people from different cultures, people who are introverts, extroverts, and embrace experimentation. Often we do not have a complete picture, and we do not be 100% sure in the beginning. This is why we have to experiment and test and learn and iterate. So have an attitude towards experimenting and learning. In case you would like to read, just stop the recording and read in details. I would like to go further in our call. Design thinking is also a process. Here is the process by Siemens. There are many process visualizations. This is just one of them. And what is important is to understand is that we have a double diamond here. On the left side, you see the problem scope, the problem space, and on the right side, the solution space. Meaning we have to have first a fully or comprehensive understanding what is actually the core of the project about. What are the needs of the people? Who are these people? And where is a most appropriate, most interesting business opportunity for us to address? And you see in the beginning, we have to collect data, and then we have to decide what is the most relevant data in our context. So we are switching from diverge to converge. And then also in the solution space, we generate a lot of ideas and prototype them. And through testing, we are converging because there's just a single idea most suitable in terms to deliver something that is of value to user and customer, is desirable, provide the most beneficial business viability, and how it should be provided, meaning the technical feasibility. Other process models are, for example, the one by Stanford D-School. Here you see different terms, but the idea is the same, that they are iterative and you have a solution space and a problem space. So you start always with problem space. Another one is the loop by IBM, which symbolize or visualize the iterative approach of design thinking. Many material also by IBM are publicly available. Have a look on Google. Just you will find really very interesting material. Last but not least, the design thinking process by SAP, who are starting with discover before they are designing. But also here, you have the delivery in the process in order to make something happen, to bring it to the market and to generate value, capture value to the customer, and of course also to the company itself. In our approach, Siemens, we are starting with the setup. In the setup, we have to figure out who should be involved internally, so the team. And the team is particularly important. You heard radical collaboration. In our radical collaboration, we have to identify who is the most suitable person, not just from the skill set and from the competencies, but also from the attitude, people who would love to work with on that topic, but also capable and allowed to work on that topic. And we're combining a team that is really capable to address a certain project. And this is not easy to make it happen, but most crucial to the success of any project. So usually the setup is 3 to 5 people in the core team. This does not mean that we are approaching other extended team members from sales, marketing, decision makers, or approaching other people in the ecosystem in order to collect relevant data. Usually we are involving, besides technical domain experts, business people and designers who are capable, willing, and allowed to work on that topic. We try to co-locate the team, that they are having a face-to-face experience where information sharing is very easy and can be done on a visual way, and where they have their artifacts around them, maybe the prototypes. And it should be a constant change between or in working alone and working with the team in the team. And as I said, if necessary, we are including other team people or stakeholders too. The next step is understand. In understand, we are collecting all the relevant knowledge or the information we think is necessary in order to get a holistic, a 360 perspective of the project scope. In the beginning, we are trying to understand who are the different stakeholders to be involved. On the external side, of course, the customer, but often the customer side is really complex. Customer involves different user groups, but who are these user groups? Maybe they are intermediaries, service supplier, people who have to be involved from the security side, the approval side, like FDA or TÜV, and of course there are competitors. But also maybe from the internal side, people who are knowledge carriers, people who are important for the decision-making process. And it's important to make these different stakeholder group them and visualize the relationship and dependencies between them. Then we are extracting what do we know in the project scope and what we don't know yet, but have to collect data about. And this also includes the relevant trends, the market, societal, or technology trends. For example, what are the relevant trends in cities, in mobility, in technology? Is it blockchain? Is it AI? Is it wearables? What is important in this trend for us in the project, for our users? As a summary, in the first step, we extract what do we have to know on all the levels, from the stakeholder level, the domain expertise level, also from the trend level, and we start extracting the information that is already known and extracting the points we have to get to know. In the next step, we start collecting all the data from the user side, from the field side. So we are getting out of the office and start observing and doing interviews in order to gain empathy, in order to identify insights and uncover opportunity areas. And Charles Eames, the famous designer from Brain, Charles Eames, a furniture designer and a filmmaker, once said, recognizing the need is the primary condition for design. So we have to understand what the needs of our user and customers are before we start designing, generate solution at all. And this starts with putting ourselves in the shoes of these people, building empathy through understanding the user needs. And we have to understand the needs in a very holistic way. And that's not easy because often we see what's obvious, the explicit needs, but we have to dig deeper. What are the implicit needs, the underlying needs? What are the motivational driver to these needs? And that's a really tough part doing that. And sometimes users are not even aware what their needs are. And we have also to have to understand that needs develop over time. And when it comes to the needs, Theodore Levitt once said, people don't want to buy a quarter-inch drill, they want to buy a quarter-inch hole. This is what we mean, that sometimes needs are not so obvious. And if you would like to ask someone what the needs are, there's also this famous quote by Ford. They would say, I would like to have faster horses. But at the end, they want certain needs in the mobility area. They want to get from A to B fast, effective, efficient, and safe. And they came up with a very different solution. And this is what I mean that needs develop over time. And here is a good example to make that visual. The need for music is so old as the human mankind. We always had needs to listen to music, to make music, to share music. But in a certain point in time, we had different capabilities from the technology. We had a need to listen to music when we would like to listen to, even if we are not capable to play music, to sing, or to play an instrument. And the LP was a way to listen to music whenever we would like to listen to without being capable to play an instrument. Later on, there was a need to listen to music on the go, and the cassette and maybe wearable device make that happen. Later on, music, to address the music quickly. We do not want to go through all the tape in order to find our track we would like to listen to, and the compact discs make that happen. Later on, we would like to have access to the entire music library. And the MP3 player here, you can see the one by Apple, made that happen. And right now, we would like to access all the music that is available and listen to it. And whenever we want to do it, wherever we want to do it. And Spotify delivers such a music experience in a streaming way and deliver a kind of a value and an experience that is suitable to the needs in our time. The trouble, as we said, addressing the user's needs, the implicit and the explicit, is not that easy, because user will tell you what they think they want. Users will tell you what they think you want to hear. Users will tell you what they think sounds good. Users will not tell you what you need to know. Therefore, go out, observe, see what they're really doing, and of course have a conversation with them and figure out where are contradictions. Maybe they say something, do something else. What is the reality really like? And this needs a little training. As we said, it's a skill set, design thinking, and it's a craft. And you get in the field, reflect what you're doing, how you're doing, and how you can improve your skill set. I summarize. And observe, of course, we have to prepare. We have to figure out with whom are we going to talk, who is the most suitable observation and interview partner, who is open to share the data. We have to get to know what do we have to know, collect the topics we have to address, extract the questions we have to answer, and go out in the real world and immerse ourselves in reality. When we have done that, we have so many information points, we have so many stories, and we have to make sense out of these stories. And this is what we are doing in synthesis in order to identify the insights and uncover the business opportunity areas. And famous tools or popular tools and methods to synthesize data is, for example, the persona. Here you can see an example by Smaply, a tool that is available and actually pretty simple to use and not that expensive to get a license from, is Smaply. Clark Andrews, you have sociodemographic data. You can write the motivations, the goal, the frustrations. You have a little bio, the personality traits. You can extract the information about technology and brands he's using. What is important to understand is that personas should be adjusted to the project. So what is the relevant knowledge you have and you should address or have to address in the context of your project? And this is changing. Sometimes you do not need personality information or information about the technology or the brands, but often what kind of jobs they are doing in the context of the project. What are the pains and gains? What is the skill set? So figuring out what is important and fill it in with real data, with data you collected from your observation, from your interviews, from your conversations with the different people. Another tool to synthesize data is a user or customer journey mapping. Here again, an example by Snaply, the tool you can use to visualize the journey in a much delightful way. And you can see the single step a user is going through a use case. You can visualize, is he happy or non-happy? What kind of touch point does he or she have? What are the phases he is going through? And extract already what is to know in this context. Where are opportunity areas, and where do you think are the most relevant elements to be addressed in order to provide a much better holistic use case or solution to your customer? Here's the last example from a framework or a synthesis tool. It's a spider net diagram we are using to visualize what are the requirements in a topic, in a project, because often we have several requirements and they are not always similar important or equally important. And we're also using this tool as a way to visualize what an as-is status is and the to-be status should be. And it gives you a way to visualize what is most important and not so important. So I summarize. In synthesis, we analyze the existing data, looking for patterns that are occurring, for connections to the data, what is beneath the obvious. We articulate emergent insights, and you are looking for strategic business opportunities and possibilities to innovate. These have been our 3 steps in the problem space. Now we are going in the solution space. And the first step in the solution space is to generate ideas, and lots of them. So our ideation phase starts in generating brainstorming questions. How might we do something? And it's sometimes challenging to phrase the right brainstorming question, that it's not too big, not too small, and it's inspiring. And we hear the question, we read the question, and already have thousands of ideas in mind, maybe not thousands, but more than 2 or 3. And we are looking for other tools to work with in order to get inspired and to generate idea. A way is to ask ourselves, what would Google do? What would Einstein do? What would Elon Musk do? And figuring out how might we generate unique and more valuable ideas. And we are following principle of ideation and brainstorming. You should not use but, use yes and instead, in order to build on ideas of others, in order that the ideation process is flourishing and working good in your team. We're using tools like Crazy 8 developed by Google, a brain writing methodology that force each team member to generate an idea and visualize it in 1 minute. So in 8 minutes, each person involved in the brain writing session develop 8 ideas, and you can collect a lot of ideas, possibilities in a very short time. To summarize, so in ideation, we define the brainstorming questions that address our business opportunities. We share the rules for ideation. We generate a broad range of ideas, clustering the ideas to bigger, complex, and more meaningful concepts, and select the most promising one before we are making them visual and tangible. This is the stage of prototyping. What is important to understand is that in design thinking, we're starting with low resolution prototyping. And we are starting with a lot of visualization and making a lot of ideas tangible in order to speed up learning. But over time, of course, we have to address issues like, can we make it happen? And what has to be addressed from the manufacturing process point of view, maybe reliability, safety, security. But at the end, the prototypes over time become more expensive. Learning takes longer, and I said it's more costly. This is why we try to embrace failure in the early beginning, build to think, start with low resolution. A tool in the early parts to visualize the use case is SAP Scenes. It's developed by SAP and it's available for free, and I love this tool to visualize the use case. What is everything all about? Who is involved? What are the relevant steps? And it's fun doing that. And it helps for all the people involved for the team. And sometimes we are using this tool also for the partners and with the customers to co-create what are the relevant elements in our use case? How does our solution really work before we are building and make it happen? Another tool we are using is Lego. We are using Lego often to visualize the concept or the system and extract the single elements of a system and describe them. Another tool we are using is paper mock-up before we are going to digital mock-ups and building a Wizard of Oz or a clickable prototype. That is very fast and easy and cheap. And here comes the summary. So we have in prototype several iterations, and we're starting rough, simple, fast, cheap, and very effective, and going later on to the higher resolution that represents the functions, the appearance, the style, and ensures manufacturability, safety, reliability. But as we said, we start with low resolution and going to the higher resolution in the later stage. And between the stages is testing. Testing with peers, but also, of course, with the user, with the customer. And we test and build to learn, and we refine our solution and deepen our understanding of the people, of the user, the customer we're designing for and want to make business with. And what is important to understand that we're not starting with the functionalities. First, we have to prove, is there actually a value to our customer, to our user? Is there a relevant need addressed? Would the solution create added and unique value to the customer? And second, is there a proof of profitability? Is the customer willing to pay? Is the market big enough and relevant enough, addressable enough for us as Siemens and for you and your company? And then, of course, also, is there a proof of concept? Can we make it happen? How robust has it to be? How safe has it to be? What has to be considered from the manufacturing side? At the end, we have to prove all the three elements. And when it comes to responsible innovation, of course, also, is there a proof that we address the majority in the society that is relevant in our project context? And also the environmental aspect, are we addressing the sustainability aspects with our solution? And to summarize, so we identify the most critical assumptions towards success and have feedback sessions, testing sessions with the most relevant stakeholders. Sometimes the testing is also just functional, but usually we have feedback sessions with various important stakeholder groups. Then we have learnings, we extract the learnings, we evaluate the learnings, implement the learnings in our feedback loops, iterate the ideas until we are good enough to go on the market and having a minimal viable solution to go further with. And I would like to finish with the implementation. At the end, we want to make something real, to bring it in the market and to capture the value. And in large corporations like Siemens, we have to ensure that the decision makers are approving our concepts. So we have to prepare an execution plan, a business model, a business case, the development plan over time, also the expectations regarding revenue in order to get the necessary resources for implementation. When the implementation is approved, also to include, of course, marketing, starting with the marketing plan. What are the channels how might we address the channels? This is described in the business model, but we have to make that happen. And the marketing material and so on and so on. So these have been the steps of our design thinking projects. As I said, there are many ways how design thinking can be applied, many process models, but usually they are following the same kind of structure, the same approach. And at the end, I would like to address, so what is the value of design thinking, these human-centered problem-solving or innovation approach? Because we're addressing the real needs of our user and customer, we are able to increase the customer value with our solutions. Because of the holistic approach that we involve the relevant stakeholders, not just a user or not just the customer, but everybody who is important in the project context. And we're not just looking for the technical feasibility, but also people desirability and the business viability. We broaden the perspective in a necessary way that is important to have a sustainable success, to be really responsible. And through the continuous testing and improvement, we are able to reduce the risk of failure. Last but not least, through the speedy iterations of low-resolution prototyping and the failure in the early phase and the learning in the earlier phase, we are able to increase speed and reduce also the cost for development, because failing and learning in later stage is very costly. So this was a basic introduction in design thinking. I hope you had fun and it was informative for you. I will post information about books I recommend and platforms for further information that are highly insightful. In case you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me. My name is Dr. Bettina Maisch. I am the webcast coordinator for the Design Thinking action item at Living Innovation, the project for responsible innovation. I hope we talk to each other soon. Thank you very much.